1 heist, 6 plots for betrayal. When Raya Cautela cons 5 other thieves into helping her steal a magical artifact from the most powerful man in the world, she knows she's playing with fire. What she doesn't know is that the rest of her crew is just as underhanded as she is, and they all have plans of their own. M.J. Kuhn's Among Thieves, a fantasy heist novel full of twists, turns, and betrayal, available beginning September 7th wherever books are sold. Visit mjkuhn.com for more details.
On today's episode, Ryan takes on the challenge of brewing 6 distinct beers to celebrate the release of his wife's book. Cheers. Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Brewthers-In-Law podcast, where beer is thicker than water. Join us on a journey discovering home brewing, craft beer, and more. My name is Mike, and with me as always is my brother-in-law, Ryan.
What's up?
My brother-in-law, Ryan, excuse me.
I think go.
That's not on the script, dang it. I screwed it up.
We should know this by now.
Yes,
I feel like we're like halfway through season 2.
Ryan, how are you once again enjoying your extended Friday off weekend?
I actually have been working a little bit. We are finishing up our huge project, and even though it is an off Friday, I've maybe done like an hour of work. That was about it. But it's also a busy day still. I went to chiropractor, and I got to take our cat to the vet for his yearly shots and everything. He's not going to like me.
Nope, he's going to hate you.
Yes.
You hear that, buddy? You're in trouble.
Oh yeah, he's in trouble. He's fine now, but he won't be later.
Okay, so today we are going to be talking about a rather interesting challenge that Ryan took on from a friend, revolving around him making 6 distinct beers. And so we had a little mess up wherein Ryan got a little confused and we both came up with a first sip for this episode. So we're just going to do both of them because I liked his, and rather than throw it away, I think we should keep them both. But we're going to start with mine. Okay. Yours can be the second sip.
All right, I can be second.
So my first sip is, aside from, this is not a preview of the results necessarily, but the first thing I thought when you said you were doing this was, "Hoo boy." So that's a lot of brewing. So can you discuss another time in your life where you were in the middle of something and you went, "Oh boy, I may have bitten off a little more than I can chew"?
Actually, yes. So I am not the best, handyman around. I know some things, how to keep the house together and everything. And so when we bought the house that we're currently in, there were a few things I wanted to get done. And one of those was in our bathroom, we had literally a light switch and 1 plug outlet. And if anyone is married or anyone has a lot of hair stuff they have to do, that's not enough to style your hair with the straightener, with the blower, with everything else that's going on. So
let alone if there's a second person in the bathroom.
Yes, exactly. So I wanted to do have at least 2 plugs and then have a switch as well. And I thought, okay, my dad taught me a few things here and there about electrical work, and I tried it and went through. And thankfully, I did it when my wife was gone for the day. And by the time she still got back, I was not done because I couldn't figure it out. There was a lot of weird wiring going on.
She walked into the house to just the sound of "son of a."
No, she walked into a house of no power because I didn't know which fuse. Because I gotta say, when whoever wired this house, it was either a genius or an idiot, or both. Because one fuse turns off part of the lights in the basement, half the switches in the kitchen, and the lights in the hallway upstairs, and it's just none of those coincide with each other. Right. How did you come up with this?
Yeah, but what if I only wanted to be inconvenienced in one room at a time?
So I tied them all off, and it was cooler. It wasn't cold, but it was cooler. So she walked into a kind of cold house with no power and everything. I'm so we ended up I think I tried getting our father-in-law to help. I tried getting your wife to help, because she's an electrical engineer. I thought she could help, and ended up getting someone that your dad actually offered to come and help us out and figure it out. And he even said, what is going on here? So yeah, that was my thing where I'm like, oh God, what have I done?
I am in too deep.
Yep.
Yeah. So mine, I have like kind of two that are both sort of the same parts of the same answer. It was when we got Layla, our dog.
Right.
So we had gotten, we had adopted our cat, and we put a litter box in our laundry room, and now we had this cute little thing walking around our house, and that was about all that changed.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
I knew that a dog was going to be more work, but like I had dogs growing up. I didn't really appreciate the minimal extent to which I participated in training those dogs until we got ours. But like, I thought I understood what we were getting into. And so we got all the stuff, you know, like the crate, and we got this little pet vacuum to clean up messes, and we were ready to go. So we adopt Layla, and she comes home. First time in her forever home. So she runs around and does a couple laps, and then she's so excited that she pees on the floor, and we go, aha, we know how to deal with this. So we get the pet vacuum out, and we're just dithering around, like cleaning that up, and we turn to look and see what she's doing, and she's taking a poop on the other side of the house. We haven't even finished cleaning up the first mess, and Haley and I are like, oh dear. We shared a look where we were both like, what have we done?
Oh God, yes.
Our peaceful life has been destroyed. And so then there was a follow-up later where it was kind of the same feeling, but it was more in relation to having two pets, where I was just trying to make a sandwich. So I'd heated up some leftover sides like in the microwave, and I was trying to make a sandwich to go with them. So my sides were already on the kitchen table. My sandwich was on the counter, and I was preparing it, and Tavi jumped up to try and get my sandwich. So I pushed him off. So he jumped up onto the table to try and get what I had there. So I walked over to the table to like get rid of him, and then turned around to watch Layla just jump up on the counter and steal my entire sandwich and run off with it. And then, of course, like she dropped some scraps. So Tavi picked up the scraps, and they almost shared this look like, nice job, dude.
Yes.
You got him. And again, I was like, mother of God. They're already ganging up on me. Like, this is not good. What have we done?
Oh my goodness.
Okay. So yeah, good times.
Yeah, that was.
You don't get through life without a couple of moments like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go on to the second sip then.
Yeah.
What was your idea?
So mine was a pretty simple one. What is your favorite beer to drink during a chill event? My hand quotes up. It's like reading or casually playing video games. Something that's relaxing. That's not like super time. Like it's not like focused on. You just kind of like relax.
Okay.
What's your beer choice for that?
Okay, and so just to clarify that this is because, you know, basically the point of this episode, you brewed this 6-pack to sort of go along with
the book. Yep.
The book.
And
right?
I'll explain that with each beer.
Yeah. But I just wanted everyone to understand kind of the context of the question. Yep. So, okay. So if I'm just hanging out playing a game or something, so my go-tos would probably be, it's just my mainstay beer usually. So Oberon in the summer, like an Oktoberfest in the fall, and or a Guinness in like the kind of fall through spring, and then Oberon kind of the other half of the year. Right now, lately, it's been Perrin Black Ale, which I'm on kind of a kick. That's a very good beer, kind of similar to Guinness, like dark but drinkable, but not nitro. So yeah, that's my response. It's usually a beer, but I can do it with pretty much anything. What about you?
I'm gonna keep it simple. Like, I probably will go with something light and easy. So I probably go like a lager, a Kolsch, something like that along the lines where it's easy to drink. I can have a few of them and not really feel it. Just something along that line. So, maybe when it's colder, I might go a little darker.
That's like PBR season.
PBR season.
and Gears of War.
Yes, exactly. I do have some listener feedback actually for today. So
very good.
The first one we're going to talk about is from Shane Kelly. Shout out to Shane. He was talking about our episode back in season 1 with Stone Brewery. And he said, great episode, you two. Thanks for the beer recommendations. And he did a bunch of hashtag beer, hashtag Friday thoughts, hashtag Friday feeling. So that's all.
Oh,
simple stuff.
Shane.
Yeah. And I do love Stone IPA. Stone IPA. We did respond saying it is a great Stone Brewing is a great place for any kind of beer. And I said, just be careful not to end up like we were, quickly drunk. And he replied saying, well, I can't make that promise, but I will try to take it slow.
I can't make that promise, but I will arrange for a designated driver.
Yes.
That's all you can ask for.
Yep. That's
Very
the one I
good.
got. So,
Well, yeah. Thanks as always, Shane, for being part of the conversation. All right.
So I'll dive in, and I'm going to do a quick little just synopsis of what I did.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would like to know what gave you this crazy idea, because I know that, you know, the collab that we did at the end of last season was a ton of fun. I loved it, but it was a not insignificant amount of work to sort of take on a theme and build a beer around it. And you agreed to do 6. What were you thinking? Tell us the kind of story of the inception of this challenge.
All right, so for those who don't know, which shame on you because you're skipping the ads for this episode or every episode. My wife wrote a book. It is called Among Thieves. It is a fantasy heist novel, and we describe it kind of Game of Thrones meets Ocean's 11. So,
and I believe too, for people who are fantasy readers, it's if you like Lies of Loch Lamora, right? It's a
Six of Crows type feel as well for the young adult group. But yeah, so with the book coming out and everything, I had a fraternity brother of mine, older fraternity brother of mine. I apologize for calling you old, Rob, but his name is Rob Ray.
Hey, we're old too.
Yeah. Previous mayor of Rochester, but he's messaged me and said, "Hey, your wife wrote a book. You make beer. You should make a theme pack of beer for this." In which my mind said, "Oh, a 6-pack. That sounds fun. Let's do it." The pause was there because in my head for that moment, I was like, no, you shouldn't. No, you shouldn't. But I didn't listen and I did it.
Now, do you think he actually meant 6 different beers in his head, or did he just mean you should make a beer and package it in 6-packs?
I think he actually meant for a 6-pack because he was also then saying...
He meant for 6 different?
6 different, yeah.
Okay.
So, because he later on said that I should sell this and do something like that. And if government is listening, I do not sell my beer because I am not legally allowed because I am not paying taxes on that kind of stuff.
I can confirm that I got a 6-pack and had to pay Ryan exactly nothing. So
there we go. So I did this because I wanted to support my wife. I thought it was an interesting thing to do beers related on something that isn't real at all, which we already did the one for Zelda, which it was just a simple one. But like this was something very, very unique and different. So I decided to do this and I did 6 different types of beer. Well, 5 beers, 1 mead, because I have to do mead.
You got to stick to your roots, right?
Yeah, stick to my roots, yeah. So pretty much what I did was I made a porter, a stout, a cream ale, a New England IPA, an old style ale, which is just like a basic ale, nothing fancy to it. And I did do a mead with it.
Okay, so I want to interject a little bit here. So while you were sort of figuring out, what was your process like for figuring out? This is something we kind of talked about a little bit. We tend to, when we do these kind of theme beer episodes, it's always something that comes up. But like, how did you come up with those styles? And when we get to the tastings, I'll ask you about the names. But how did you end up with that short list of styles as like sort of representing Among Thieves?
They kind of go with themes. So I knew of places and people that were within the book, and I kind of thought, okay. So for instance, there is a place called Kerouac in the book. It is a ocean-facing port city, and the first thing that came to my mind was, we talked about this when we did the Stout and Porter episode, was the reason porters started was because they wanted a beer for the porters. And I'm like, okay, I have to do a porter for
in that
Kerouac.
City, all those dock workers, this is what they're going to
they're going to drink at the bar. So that's why, and it's similar like that. And when we go to each beer, I'll definitely dive into each reason why, what's related to the book and why I chose that.
But broadly, you sort of picked characters and places that were evocative to you or that shouted a beer style at you?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So when making these, I did 1 gallon batches of each one. So it's 10 beers, roughly-ish, depending on what my yield is. And Rich would be proud, these are beers with no extra ingredients. These are...
Every single one?
The mead will, but that's a little different, yeah.
Yeah, but the 5 beers are all Ryan Heitzgebot adherent.
Yes. And I will say I actually had to remake a few just because of issues that happened after they were brewed. I had some floaters in one. I had one just go sour on me, and actually the mead I had to redo because I'll give away one flavor. I use lavender. I use too much, and when you do that, you taste soap, no matter what you do to it.
Yeah.
So
what do you think that those issues that you had, because it seems like you kind of had a higher, you had issues more often among these 6 beers than you typically do while you're just brewing, right?
Correct.
So do you think that part of the fact that you were like, because I remember you sort of busted these out in a very short, shockingly short amount of time. I was impressed. You were brewing like crazy. Do you think that high turnover of equipment and stuff like kind of played into you having more issues than normal? What do you attribute that to?
I think so. I love to brew, and honestly, when I did at time of recording, I am done brewing for the season. I did my last beer, which is actually a remake of one of the beers here, and I was kind of happy to be done brewing for the season because I was just kind of burned out with doing these ones.
Yeah.
It just had some bad feels to it. It just didn't quite flow with what I wanted.
But like you were flying by the seat of your pants a little too much.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they were basic. There's nothing really fancy. For the most part, I cloned beers that were out there. I kind of adjusted hops, adjusted grains, but
that's a pretty standard way to develop recipes, as we've talked about.
Yep.
Plug to our developing a recipe episode.
Exactly. Yes. So I got the first one here. We're going to try it. And this is actually the one I'm most terrified for us to try because this was the one I had issues with, or one of the ones I had a lot of issues with.
But now to confirm, have you tried this beer?
I have not tried this beer.
Okay. So this will be neither have I, because like I said, Ryan did give me a 6-pack, but I've been working my way through it slowly, sort of waiting until I like to wait till there are people around I can share it with, so that more, people who weren't as important as me and didn't get one didn't get a 6-pack can try the beers too. And I want to add one fun thing onto this, since you did 6 different beer styles, and this is a very limited run.
Yes.
I would like, after we finish talking about each one, why don't you just throw out if you want to try a beer like this, maybe look at this beer.
Okay. I had
to
do that? A little digging, but I think.
Well, let's just if you don't have any ideas, then I'll see what I can come up with. But I just like to throw that on as a quick thing for each style. Okay, so what do we got first?
So the first one we're going to try is Raya's Ale, in which I'll give the description, because I did make descriptions for each beer actually. So Raya's Ale, which apparently autocorrect put it to Ryan's Ale. I just noticed that
there are no spoilers in these descriptions, are there?
Oh no, nothing really. I don't think. So it is said that there is nothing the butcher can't do, and the butcher is one of the characters. Her name is Raya.
She's the main character.
She is the main character, and nothing she can't drink. This old ale is definitely something she can handle. Can you? Just don't go drink, or you will end up losing all your crescents, which is money that they use, to some kid playing Nobleman's Luck, which is a game they play. There was a couple little nods in there for, this is the first chapter, actually second chapter of the book with all those references. So this is a 5.51% ale. So crack this open. Okay, get some. Got a hiss.
Good.
We got a hiss. I'm happy for that.
To me. We should also point out that Ryan. It's in the photo for the podcast. You can look it up on our website. But Ryan has a very nice little set of themed and color coded bottles or bottle labels and bottle caps for this, with the cover of the book on it, which is a nice little touch. Okay, so
I'll go through, if you want to look at it. I'll kind of go through my recipe real quick.
Well, so do we want to try it first? Maybe I'll
go for it. You go for a try.
I'll give the initial description. So it's a nice kind of brown ale sort of a color. Mm-hmm. It smells. It's got that kind of old ale smell to it. Old ales, I don't know. I almost want to call it like a biscuity, caramely sort of thing that I always get with an old ale, or honestly just an old beer. But that's basically what an old ale is trying to be.
Yep. So as you sip, I'll kind of go through it. So for a 1 gallon batch, 1.8 pounds of Munich extract, 0.06 pounds of chocolate malt. That's a tiny, tiny bit of chocolate malt. And then you got 4 ounces of Fugel right at the beginning at 60, 0.2 ounce of Kent Golding at the last 5. And then I used an Old English yeast, no particular brand. I just had whatever was available.
Old with an E. Was the pack of yeast old, or was it called Old English yeast?
It was called Old English yeast, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I like this beer. My nose didn't lead me astray. It's got really nice kind of, I would say like a brown ale base flavor, but there is that character of age on it. And you didn't do.
I did not fully age this one because I had to remake it.
You didn't age it in oak or anything,
No.
right? But you also didn't. I've heard that you can add like, treacle or molasses or something to kind of mimic that.
I did see that, but when you do stuff like that, it needs to age. You have to let it age for, I think it said 6 months to a year. So I did not want to wait that long.
I would say that the yeast did a pretty good job. I'm not really sure what exactly they contribute to be designated like old English yeast, but this definitely has that kind of flavor. Like I said, there's like a rich kind of biscuity sort of quality that
this turned out a lot better. I actually like this.
Can be really unpleasant in beers that aren't supposed to have it, but like in here, it really works, and it's
I'm actually
it is kind of what I
surprised.
Yeah, good.
Because I think the first batch I did with this, I did put wood chips in it, and then when I was looking after bottling, I saw floaters on top. And I was like, I don't know where those came from.
Perhaps the wood chips weren't like
and then the same
sanitized,
thing the same thing actually happened with the porter, which I had an issue with. Same thing, I put wood chips in there to age it.
Well,
and I didn't do it again.
And that makes sense. So I've heard that about like long aged sours where you're intentionally adding bacteria and like Brettanomyces to it. Where like one you can see the film of the bacteria on top, which is fine if that's what you're doing on purpose.
I wasn't film; they were literal floaters.
But also they're, like those beers I know can kind of go like what they call sick for a while, and I don't know exactly what that looks like, but it's like it's just kind of icky for a while, but you just let it age out.
Okay.
So it makes sense that maybe it's like if you're gonna do oak chips, maybe the lesson there is like, unless you're sterilizing them somehow, you're adding
when in the package. The package said sterilized already, which is why I didn't do anything. Yeah.
So maybe
Maybe it was just a bad batch of wood chips. I've done wood chips before in the past with some beers, but
maybe there was like a little pinhole in the packaging or something. But interesting. I don't know, but either way, this one worked out well without them.
This turned out a lot better. I'm very, very pleasant with it.
It might be interesting to return to this recipe and try and do either real aging or do some kind of just, like either secondary on oak or like black treacle or something. Cause this is a good base for a beer.
Yeah. This is something I could definitely like see sitting at an old timey bar, like The Witcher, or even in the setting with the book and everything, just like sitting at a seedy bar or casino and just sipping on this, and it catches up with you because it went down pretty quick, and like I said, it's 5% something.
Geralt the Witcher certainly likes to get drunk, so he would appreciate the ABV.
Yeah, 5.5%. So not super bad, but like it catch up with you eventually.
Yeah.
All right.
And it does get, maybe it's like it's the body, and I don't know, like there is a little impression of alcohol, so it gives the impression of drinking stronger than it does, which I think like in a good way. Like it doesn't taste like it's not strong enough. It still tastes old ale-y. But okay, let's move on.
Let's go the next one. We are going to go to a location. The location in this for the book for this one is called Goldenport. Though it sounds like a fancy place, in the book it is definitely not. So the description for this, and actually I had my wife help me a lot on this one. It says, "You have arrived in Goldenport." Well, that's fun, and fun is in quotations. While there, try the cream ale as the only golden thing about it, and the only golden thing that won't be picked from your pocket. So, and then I relate to a character whose name is Nash, and it says, "It is also the only thing Nash will say is good here." And Nash is from Goldenport in the book. This is a 6.3%, so it's a little bit stronger. And I have tried this one.
Interesting. A cream ale stronger than an old ale.
Oh, you got a nice hiss.
But hey,
on that one.
It sounds like just like Goldenport. This is one that like sounds like it's supposed to be light and inoffensive, and then boom, if you're not careful, it'll get you. Wow. Okay. So first thought while you're pouring, beautiful clarity.
Yeah, that turned
Holy crap! This is almost like commercial clarity.
And that's without. I didn't put any Irish moss or any Werflock in it at all. That's just natural clarity.
So I'm curious. It
Ooh, I
almost.
do see floaters in there, so be careful.
Well, that's I think yours because you were closer to the bottom of the bottle.
Okay,
Maybe it just got a little shook up. Like mine looks gorgeous.
Okay.
It's perfectly clear. So I think the yeast just settled out.
Yeah. So this one is, so again, 1 gallon batch, 1.4 pounds of Pilsen LME, 0.4 pounds of flaked maize, which just gives you a little more alcohol to it without any too much flavor. And then for the hops, I have 0.2 ounce of Crystal right at the beginning, 0.2 ounce of Kent Golding at the last 10. And then the yeast is from Imperial. It's called Flagship. And it's like a basic lager ale, something like that.
I believe it's believed to be the Sierra Nevada strain. So like Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, that real clean. Whoa, interesting. Okay, so there's a little bit of tartness on this.
Yes, and I'm not sure what it's from. I'm wondering.
I mean, maybe just a little bit of like lacto during primary fermentation or something. Maybe. I don't know. It's not bad though. Like
no, it's kind of like a light sour beer in general. Like it's a sour beer that I could easily drink.
And it is lightly tart, not bracing.
No,
it's not like funky. It doesn't have that like kind of Brett farmhousey sort of flavor. It's just a little bit tart. But it's funny though because that doesn't really come off on the nose. Now that I know it's there, maybe I can taste or I can smell a little bit of that like acidic thing. But when I sniffed it the first time, it kind of smelled like pale lager to me. It had that almost lagery quality. Okay. Which might just kind of speak to the kind of cleanliness of Flagship, that's
Flagship definitely is supposed to do it. And that's probably why it came out so clear in general.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. So we forgot to do this on the last one, but if someone was looking for a beer like this beer, I guess it's up to you whether you want to say like a beer that's like what you were imagining or like what turned out. Either are like this is yummy and drinkable for sure.
Well, what I wanted was something is super drinkable, is super light, not a huge amount of flavor, which is what a cream ale usually is for me. A local one for us in Michigan, Dragon Mead. Mark it off your bingo card list there for Dragon Mead. They do a Lancelot cream ale, which is very, very good. It's always a perfect summer beer to have, light and crisp and easy to drink. That's what I was trying to go for the most part.
Okay. And they definitely, I think the color and everything is about right. And Lancelot is, I think, a stronger cream ale. I don't know if it's quite 6.3%, but so I would say this, unfortunately, is another kind of regional exclusive, but one of the most well-known cream ales in the country is the New Glarus Spotted Cow. So if you are anywhere around like the Wisconsin area, definitely drop in and get yourself some of that. I've never had it, but I've heard it talked about a lot. It's kind of like the platonic ideal of what a cream ale should be. Yeah. Light, drinkable, refreshing, but a little more character than a lager.
Yeah, and to go back to the Raya's Ale, probably the one that and you're going to look at me and give me the eyeball, I think. I was kind of going for like a slightly more flavorful Old Milwaukee feel for the Raya's Ale. Like I wanted an ale version Old Milwaukee. I wanted something that is a little stronger.
I don't know that I ever...
You never had Old Milwaukee?
No.
Okay. It's kind of like Beast, Bush, everything like that. It's in that same cheap beer range. I've had Old Milwaukee, and it's got a little more color to it. It's not quite a lager, but it's not quite an amber either. But I wanted something a little bit more flavor to it, and still something that most people probably wouldn't really say they drink, but unless they're going someplace seedy. Somewhere like a dive bar or something like that, that's where I wanted something to have. Like I wanted Raya's Ale to be something you find at a dive bar. So
interesting. Okay. Yeah. So I would say, so I'm not sure. All the commercial examples on BJCP aren't jogging my memory, but there is I believe Bell's has one called Third Coast Old Ale.
Oh yeah,
I've never had.
That's newer. It's newer.
I'm wanting to say like Old Rasputin, but that's a Russian Imperial Stout.
Yeah,
but
no.
I want to say that it's that same brewery makes an old ale that is something like that. I just can't think of it. But honestly, old ales are pretty hard to find in
they
America.
are. They're definitely hard to find.
Go to a brewery with or a just a beer store with a good selection of like British beers and look in their kind of like import big bottle section, their bomber section, and you might have some luck there if you want to try a true old ale.
Well, I think it's a good time to take a break.
Okay.
About halfway through. And then we got 4 more left to try. I know we got my 2 favorites are coming up, so.
Saving the best for last.
No, we're saving a surprise for last. The meat is going to be last, my friend.
Ooh, okay, I like it. All right, so cheers to that.
Cheers to that.
Welcome to our new podcast. Welcome to our new podcast.
This isn't working.
Agreed. I think we're going to have to do it turn by turn.
Well, now that you mention it, we are a brand new RPG video game podcast.
Our very existence hinges on turn-based gaming.
So join us on the Turn by Turn podcast, where we'll be talking about
Pokemon, Fire Emblem, Golden Sun, Shining Force, Mother, and so many more.
It's your turn to come and join us.
Hey, this is TC.
And this is Jim from the Studio Demands It podcast,
Where every episode we take a demand from a hypothetical studio,
which could be you,
and challenge ourselves to conceptualize, pitch, and craft a film based on the stipulations
or the demands
we are given. We talk about movies all the time. Particularly, we complain about the choices made in the films we've seen.
We're nerds like that.
And, of course, like any good nerd does, we automatically assume that we could do better.
Even with the demands and restrictions that clearly must have been put on by a production.
So head on over to studiodemandsit.com and listen to our previous library of episodes. Our library of previous episodes. Our precious library, Jim. Our library of precious episodes.
You're a pirate, Smeagol.
Okay. So head on over to studiodemandsit.com to listen to our library of episodes.
And submit your demand for a future episode, too.
So go do that.
Okay, bye.
Okay, end of ad.
Yes. Okay. So we are back, and we have 4 more to get through. So Ryan, we better not delay. What are we doing next?
So the next one is actually one of my favorites. I had this one, and I think it turned out very well. And I think you said you tried this one as well. This is the Guildmasters IPA. So
yes,
this is a
one
New
that I've had
England,
already.
a New England IPA. And I make a New England IPA. It actually turned out really clear.
Yeah. Wow. Well, so you called it a. At least you didn't label it a hazy.
No, I called it a NEPA.
You know I'm a little mad about this because I just made that California Common I made was supposed to be this clear and ended up having a persistent I think a protein like a chill haze, and your intentionally hazy beer is clearer than that was.
So this is called Guildmasters IPA. Guildmaster is another character. He is I won't be giving really anything away. He is your antagonist. So this is described as a hot day on the second day of the auction. You'll have to read to find out what that means. And nothing is better than this hazy IPA with notes of pineapple, mango, and other tropical fruits. The Guildmaster may control Timor, which is the world that we live in, but at least he makes a good beer. And this is a 4.73%.
All right. And we're looking at kind of a deep orange sort of a color. Again, surprisingly clear. It's bottle conditioned well.
And it's still really good.
What's the ABV on this?
4.73.
4.7. Okay.
So about a little lower than.
See, I wish more New England IPAs were made in that range because so many of them are up in the kind of 6 to 8.
6, yeah.
And then it limits their drinkability.
They're so good, and you want more, and then you realize, no, I can't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I definitely still have the tropicalness to it.
To me, yeah, the pineapple is the distinct hop flavor that I get.
And
out of this beer.
That is going to be your Azaka hops that I put in here.
Okay, yeah.
So
that's a hop I've not worked.
So this has pale LME, this regular pale LME, Maris Otter, which is a very good one to have for a New England IPA. And then for your hops, I put Citra right at the beginning. And then right at the end, the last 10 minutes, I do Galaxy and Azaka. And then I dry hop with more Azaka. And then I use from Imperial Yeast Juice, which is their pretty much their
IPA strain. Yeah.
IPA strain, yeah.
And I definitely get the Maris Otter in here too. That there's kind of a rich malty flavor. It's definitely different from your other New England IPA. That one I thought is more, I mean it was more hazy, but that also hazy Triforce tends to go very quickly, so it doesn't have a chance to really clear.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is very it's good, but it's different. It's a little bit less juicy in like the consistency of it, you know, but it's in terms of flavor, it is distinctly reminiscent of like tropical fruit and specifically pineapple. So yeah, good job.
I did this one pretty much kind of based it off the Hazy Triforce. Is one I already do. I changed up the hops a little bit. The Hazy Triforce does have Citra and Galaxy, but it does not have a Zaka. Zaka is the new one for here. And I didn't do as much at the end in the dry hopping. So I did a lot more in dry hopping.
That's probably part of the reason that this one cleared a little bit too, because the dry hopping is a big part of the haze, I think. All the like the polyphenols from the hops. So that makes sense. Yeah, I like this because to me it's almost like halfway between like a more traditional IPA and a New England IPA. And I like that because sometimes, a lot of the time actually, like New England IPA is not really what I'm looking for because it's like, if this makes sense, it's like not bitter enough.
Yeah.
You know, like the balances shifted too far for my taste. And so this
is nice.
This to me is nice. Yeah.
Nice middle bridge.
It kind of evokes some of those same juicy flavors without being so far over that way.
Yeah, no, agreed. So trying to go beer with an example of this, I think Sam Adams does a really great New England IPA, and I think it's really similar to this as well.
Do they really?
Oh yeah, they do. It's very good. It might not be as tropical, but it still definitely is. It would be a lot hazier.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a close national brand that you could find somewhere.
Do you know of any New England IPAs that explicitly do use Azaka hops?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Okay. So yeah, I would say my favorite New England IPA is Old Nation M43.
That's a great one. Yeah.
That's Michigan, but I think it's fairly widely distributed. It's a pretty well known one. But if you can get your hands on that, that's great. I don't know that it's quite exactly like this though.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is like I said, because it kind of sits sort of halfway between. It's a pretty unique beer that I'm
I like it a lot. I knew this one going in. I was gonna like this one.
Yeah.
So the
one
next
of your bread and butter styles.
It is. So the next one is our porter, which I've had this one as well, and you've had this one as well. So we're gonna go back to back with that. So let's see if we can correct this open. Gets nice.
So this is called what?
So this is the Kerouac Porter, which we did talk about at the beginning of the episode.
True. Yeah, we talked about it.
Where I got the name for that one. The description: life is tough traveling through Kerouac as a porter. You never know what you are delivering or who it is for. Hopefully not to lottery, which is like the bad part of the area. But after a hard day's work, nothing is better than a porter named after what you do. And it's 7.22%. So it's got a little more. It's got a little more to it. And it is.
It's a good thing we're doing sample size.
Yes. And it is as black as black can be.
That's a dark porter. A nice, very chocolatey, like not the head on this is now also, I think this has probably the nicest foam cap of any of the beers so far, which makes sense, all the dark malts. But yeah, beautiful beer, like jet black with an almost like caramel colored head of foam.
Yep. So go ahead and take your smell and sip. I'll say what's in it. So dark malt DME, and then some black patent, which is your color right there, and then also chocolate malts to go with it. I use Fugel, I use Kent Golding, and Imperial. You might as well just like sponsor this episode. Imperial Darkness.
Dude,
yeast.
Oh yeah,
very good.
You use darkness in this. Okay,
I love
That's
darkness
great.
now. I love it. It's one of my favorite yeasts to use
it's a
now.
wonderful yeast, and I get the same. So we use darkness for, and honestly,
it's so good.
if you're a brewer, I use like Imperial for virtually everything.
I'm slowly changing to put everything as Imperial.
It's so good. It's like worth the extra money because you never need a starter. You just like.
You don't have to slap it to open up a little thing in there as well.
Yeah, like the fermentation's always fantastic. Yeah, there's like no extra steps. You just kind of like swish it up and pour it in. Yeah, I can't recommend them enough. And we're lucky enough to have Cadillac Straits in Madison Heights. Madison Heights. That is an excellent brew store that has a huge selection of Imperial yeast.
Yes, they have a great selection.
Good on them. But yeah, so darkness, we use it for our like essentially our Guinness clone, and it does because it's purportedly the Guinness yeast strain.
Mm-hmm.
And it has this just little undercurrent of like almost like cherry, like dark fruits, like cherries and
I
figs
can
and
definitely
stuff.
get that now you're saying
And
that,
I
yeah.
get that in here, and it's really nice because the other primary flavor I get is kind of that like, not so much coffee, but like chocolate, and then that little bit of like almost coffee like astringency you get in darker beers. Like
Yeah.
I don't mean that as a bad thing, but like people will use the term like ashy. And like I know that sounds icky, but I think just a touch of it is actually really nice to making a dark beer not too sweet.
So I will
It's
say
kind of a different kind of bitterness from hops, and I think this has just enough of that flavor, and I get a lot of chocolate flavor, and then I get just a teensy bit of that darkness, like kind of dark fruit thing that really, really rounds it out. This is an excellent beer.
there's only like literally a tiny amount of chocolate malt, and most of it is going to be your black patent. That's 0.4 pounds in there for a 1 gallon.
Yeah,
batch.
and but that I know Black Patent I think supplies a lot of similar chocolate and coffee flavors and that little sense of ashiness.
I think the actual SRM coloring of it is technically 800. I'm not even joking. It's triple digits.
And for reference to those who don't brew, like the SRM color scale caps out at 40.
Yes.
Like I just made a beer that is a 36.
I'm gonna pull it up.
Is a 36 on the scale, and that beer is like pretty much black at a 36. So you are way beyond the pale.
So the SRM for this is 83.
83. Okay.
83. So
it's
like we were
double.
saying, black patent is 500.
It's double past.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
but
then
you used
chocolate
enough of
malt
it.
is 430 actually.
Yeah.
So
now what was your thought to just get a little nerdy about brewing for a second? Why did you use both of those instead of just picking like one dark malt?
I wanted a little extra. I know like black patent brings in some flavors of chocolate and everything else, but I wanted a little more sweetness to it. And you get that a little bit at the beginning, I think.
There's definitely a sense of sweetness to the beer.
And
I think darkness helps with that too, because I think English yeasts they leave a little bit more sugar in the beer than like really high attenuating yeast typically. I don't know about that one in particular, but yeah, okay.
That's one of my favorites, and I have remade that one. It is already on tap here. That was the last beer I made.
Did it? So
and it turned out great. Still has the same look, same color.
Okay, yeah, like similar experience. So that's interesting to know because I've never really gone and done a batch size as low as what you did here, and I was curious like how I know that it's easy to scale a recipe, but
thankfully the app I use, you can actually scale it. So if you build it to like off a 5 gallon, you can scale it down to 1.
Too, yeah.
So it's very nice. All right, so we're gonna stick with dark.
Now, do you know based on like measurement, technically, are we going darker or lighter here?
Technically we're going lighter.
It's going from black to black, but just
it's not as black as Satan's soul. It's just black as a demon's soul.
Okay.
So, and actually, I will explain. Ooh, that's nice. I will explain more of that. It is called Borean Stout, which is a location.
Borean Stout. Okay.
Up to the north in this world. Yeah. So, they like a nice darker beer.
Okay. Yeah. So while you're pouring it, it comes out a little more. Yeah. So this is like a deep brown. Actually, it's really pretty. It has this almost like a little darker than chestnut color, but like if you hold it up to the light, this beautiful red comes through. Yeah. It's not as dark as Guinness, but actually like Guinness does the same thing. Like
I could tell
on the edges of the glass, there's this really pretty ruby kind of garnet.
So I can tell you, there is roasted barley, which probably gives it that nice redishness color. At least helps with that. Crystal 120 is in it, and then it's a pale malt as the base. And so instead of a dark malt, we just did a pale malt, so it doesn't hold quite as dark. It also has Crystal Caraston, which is 40 degrees, just about. It's like a strain of Crystal that's slightly different, but they actually didn't have it. So I just went Crystal 40. So, and then your hops are Cluster, North Down, which is another British hops, which is, I believe, similar to, I forgot what it was. But it's another British earthy hop to go with it.
Earthy herbal.
I think I actually did Fugel because they didn't have North Down. So I actually had to go with Fugel on it.
Oh, see, I love Fugel.
I do too.
Fugel's a great hop.
And then Centennial right at the end.
Interesting. Okay.
And then darkness as well for your yeast to go with it. And then the description for this one is: it is a cold day in the northern region of Boreas, and sometimes there is nothing to help keep warm. But with this stout that is as black as a Tronvojavel, which is something that's used in the book, I won't tell what it is, you can make it through anything God sends your way, which is their God. G-O-T-T, God.
So it's funny because
this is nowhere near as dark.
Whatever you said is not quite as dark as Life in Kerouac.
Yes.
But,
I mean, you read the book. You got to admit, it's pretty rough in Kerouac.
It's pretty rough there. You're right. Yeah. So I like this. It is it sounds like, I mean, you used darkness, you used,
roasted barley instead.
Roasted barley, which is black patent is too, I guess, a little bit, but like roasted barley is the key ingredient in like Guinness and Irish Reds.
Yep.
So you went very kind of Ireland, British Isles with this.
Yes.
Were you conceptualizing it to have more of a British porter kind of flavor versus like an American porter kind of flavor?
No, actually, I was trying to go Russian Imperial Stout with it, and it just wouldn't get there.
You just need more darkness.
I know.
not the yeast darkness, like more dark malts. You need that 83 SRM again. This to me drinks more like a British sort of porter. Like it's a little sweeter. Mm-hmm. It's nice. I definitely still get the undercurrent. I've just kind of learned to recognize what Imperial Darkness tastes like, so I can get that in there too. But yeah, this is a nice beer. It's sweet. There's a little, I would think, less chocolate to my palate and a little bit more caramel, which makes sense because I know you said you added like a decent dose of C40.
Yeah.
And yeah, this would definitely warm me up if it was,
I think this one
cold as all get out, and I was like taking refuge in a brewery.
This one turned out a little better. I hadn't had this one yet either, so this one.
This was another new one. Okay.
Yeah, I hadn't had this one yet, so this one turned out a lot better than I thought it was going to as well. I wish, like you said, I think because of that reference to the Tronvojavel, like it's supposed to be like. Picture Batman throwing like the ball down and smoke coming up and he disappears. Mm-hmm. That's a similar aspect to what it's supposed to be.
Okay.
So like it's supposed to be pitch black. It's supposed to be just like you can't see anything when this is around you.
So maybe
this
more, get more roasted barley next time.
Maybe just put some black patent in there.
I think though, like if you get like British roasted barley, it's at least as dark as black patent. So I think you could go either way. So I will say that the way this beer tastes, like I said, to me it drinks like kind of an English port, like robust porter, or a stout porter, if you will, where the name came from. So I would say if you want something like this, find some Samuel Smiths. It's not that hard to find in Bombers, and either get their like oatmeal stout, even though I know it doesn't have oatmeal in it, or their porter.
Okay.
I think both of those would be good options for like the taste of this beer. Mm-hmm. Why don't you make a recommendation for kind of like your idea of this beer? What's your favorite Russian Imperial Stout?
I don't really I'm not a huge Russian Imperial Stout fan. I just wanted to make the style, and
maybe that's why you couldn't help making not quite a Russian Imperial Stout. You're like, well, it's funny because
like I did tell Rob Ray, who's the one who challenged me, that I was making a Imperial Stout, and he's just like, oh, that's one of my favorite beers. I'm like, oh, I really hope I don't mess this up. So Rob, at time of recording, he now has it. Just got it last week. So we'll see how he comes back with any of the taste tests and everything.
See what happens.
I'm going to let you talk a little bit. The next one is the mead. As we know, I have a bad history with mead inside bottles. So I'm going to open it up in the laundry room in case it makes a mess. So
okay, hey, why don't you then? This is a great spot. Can you bring me the book? I'm going to read the back of the book description.
Yeah, go right ahead. Yeah.
So yeah, in case anyone has not heard of this book, we're just going to shamelessly plug it here because it's excellent. And it's reviewed very well. So even people who aren't married to or related to M.J. Kuhn, the author, seem to really be enjoying it. It is called Among Thieves. So here is the sort of back of book description so you can decide for yourself whether you are interested in this. So in just over a year's time, Raya Kotela, Mal, I'm sorry if I mispronounce that, has already earned herself a reputation as the quickest, deadliest blade in the dockside city of Kerouac, not to mention the sharpest tongue. But Raya Kotela is not her real name. For the past 6 years, a deadly secret has kept her in hiding, running from town to town, doing whatever it takes to stay one step ahead of the formidable Guildmaster, the sovereign ruler of the 5 kingdoms of the Moor. No matter how far or fast she travels, his servants never fail to track her down. but even the most powerful men can be defeated. Raya's path now leads directly into the heart of the Guildmaster's stronghold, and against every instinct she has, it's not a path she can walk alone. Forced to team up with a crew of assorted miscreants, smugglers, and thieves, Raya must plan her next moves very carefully. If she succeeds, her freedom is won once and for all. But, unfortunately for Raya, her new allies are nearly as selfish as she is, and they all have plans of their own.
By the way, you did say the name right. It's Raya Katala.
Go me.
All right. And no explosion.
Oh, this is a gorgeous looking little thing. So it almost looks like a rosé.
It's got like a slightly darker, slightly purplish.
So where does that color come? Because like lavender's not this color.
I will tell you where it comes from. So, first of all,
so beautiful clarity.
Thank you.
Again, a very pretty, almost a rosé color, but with a little bit more orange in it.
Mm-hmm. So I'll go through
smells like
my
mead.
description.
I'm going to take a sip
Go
while
for
you describe.
So first, the description of it: nothing shows your pride in what you do as drinking something that is the same color as what you wear. Before the bells toll for your shift change, you better get one last sip of this blueberry lavender mead.
Oh.
It will make patrolling the Bobbin Fort, which is the location, bearable, though the captain might disagree. Now, I will put in, and I told us people who had the six-pack, this needs to age until 5/1/2022, but we are cracking this open slightly early just to give a little sample.
You're just going to smack the cap back on it afterwards?
We'll see. I did not put any priming sugar, so it's a flat mead, so there's no sparkling to it. So with this mead, I did 1 gallon batch, which is what I usually do anyways for mead, 3 pounds of honey. It is 1 part regular honey, so regular clover honey, 1 part blueberry honey.
So honey
mixed
from...
honey mixed with blueberry.
Okay, so it's like some sort of wildflower or clover honey, but mixed with blueberries.
Okay. And then another part mixed with blackberry instead.
Okay.
So it gives it a nice sweetness to it. I bought these honeys. Actually, when we were in Lexington one summer, up in the thumb of Michigan, they had one of those little fairs, and they had been selling these honeys. I was like, "Oh, this would be really, really cool to make in a mead." But they were really small, not big enough for it, so I'd have to do 3 different parts. So 1 part blueberry, 1 part blackberry, and 1 part regular.
Then where did the lavender come in?
The lavender came in secondary. So after you make your mead, which we've described in other episodes, you brew it with the honey. You pretty much get everything out. You cool it. You pitch your yeast, and then you let it do its thing, and then you re-rack. In the secondary, that's where I added the lavender and dried blueberries as well.
Interesting. Okay.
So I wanted, because like I said, I remade this one because when the first time I made it without blueberries, it was, and it just pure regular honey. The second time I did it with the other honeys, it was way too soapy, and wow, it was apparently very good. Mike just downed his. But that's where I threw in the extras. Lavender is so tricky. It's a great flavor to have. I tried doing a seltzer with it. It's just super, super hard to balance. You got to be careful with not oversteep it, not to use too much.
There's a small range between like can't taste it and overpowering, and then there's a whole other axis of like oversteeping and getting flavors you don't want.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So
interesting.
And that's what the reason actually I added the blueberry at the end was because I did oversteep a little bit. I was trying to balance it out with more blueberries in there.
Gotcha.
And by you finishing yours,
I was going to say we only poured an ounce, but mine's gone already because you talk for too long. So apparently it's good. I'm a big fan of this. I forget where I heard this, but let's just assume it was on Brewthosophy.
Mark it on your bingo card.
But somebody said they were talking about it was a conversation about spices in brewing, and somebody said, if I can tell you what spices are in your beer, you've used too much of them.
Okay.
And I think that is probably the best compliment I could pay this is knowing what's in it, I get all of it, but I couldn't have told you that starting off. Okay. It makes for a very nice drink. It doesn't taste like normal mead. There was a nice kind of berry fruitiness to it. Mm-hmm. There is a little, it's funny because the kind of berry, the fruit sort of hits you right after the more generalized honey flavor. Mm-hmm. And then it's for a split second after that, the lavender just lingers on your tongue a little while longer and sticks in your mouth a little longer. Mm-hmm. But Haley and I had the unfortunate experience of trying it was a home brew. We were at a cidery up in Traverse City area.
Yeah.
and they had this like rotating homebrew selection, and it was a lavender beer. And holy crap, it was like it was like you smoothie lavender petals. Like it was so intense. And it was like I wouldn't even describe it as soapy. Like it is kind of lavender flavor is kind of soapy because it's used in soaps.
used in
I think
soap.
it's like a reverse association, but like it was like you were eating lavender petals. You know, it was so it was just, oh my God.
And like,
Just beyond crazy. So like the amount that you use in here does show a nice touch, and it doesn't surprise me, having had that awful experience, that you had to like try it a couple times to get it just right. But I think you did. So very nice job. This is an excellent mead.
trying to see if I had.
So do you think,
notes.
does the color mostly then come from the blueberries?
I believe so, because they're just they're dried blueberries that I threw in.
And I know that like
during
they're
secondary.
like when the pH, if the pH goes acidic, which it usually, like beer and I think mead and like alcohol, you know, during fermentation it tends to. I know that blue color changes towards more of a purple. And if this was very lightly purple, that kind of makes sense to me.
We have a surprise guest down here.
Oh, hey, buddy. But yeah, that can make sense.
Yeah, no. Come on, let's go. I gotta get you upstairs. Go on, upstairs.
Yeah.
Upstairs.
So I am definitely going to let mine sit a little bit, though, because the one thing I will say, meads are funny. There's like no way around the fact that like you can tell a young mead. It's kind of like whiskey. You know, there's just no getting around young age. And I taste that a little bit here, but actually for its age, I think it's fantastic. But I think I might just have to, mine's actually been in the fridge, I think, because I just moved all of them in there without thinking about it. But either way, I think I'm going to let it ride
Well, this
for
has
a
been in
while.
the fridge too, so.
And you said wait till when? What's your recommended?
6 months on the dot would be 5/1/2022.
Okay.
So
I'll put it on my Google Calendar and wait that long, because I do think it's going to be worth it. And the nice thing about having a whole 12-ounce bottle of mead is like you can stretch it. Like you said, it's still. So
yeah,
I think
I prefer.
I'm probably going to stretch mine into multiple.
Well, you can move it
evenings.
into like a decanter or like a fifth bottle or something like that. So you just like
Yeah.
put the cap on it and just let it sit a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I think I'm actually, like I said, this is the first time I've tried this one. This is what I wanted exactly.
Yeah.
I do want it to
You
age
really
a little
nailed
more.
it.
Yeah,
It's
I think
excellent.
I think I might keep this one too.
I think you should. I think you should do this one again. It's very excellent.
I will say, I don't know if you don't have any left in your glass, but I do have a tiny sip left. But I do smell the lavender a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's why I was so worried about it, because that lavender was slightly soapy.
I see. Yeah, but I mean, like lavender smells delicious. I'm gonna have just a teeny bit more.
Remember,
Lavender smells really good if it's not overpowering.
True.
It's one of those
I love
weird,
lavender.
one of those weird flavors where like if it's too strong, it starts just like smelling like like a urinal cake or something. But if it's the right amount, it just smells like you're walking by some lavender, and that's a really, really beautiful smell.
Yeah. So I do have to say, I was terrified of some of these beers when I made these beers.
I applaud you for going into this episode not having tried fully half of them. I think it's awesome. It made the episode a little more interesting.
I did.
The
So
stakes were higher.
because I did sample the mead before I bottled it and everything. Like I was making sure that soapiness wasn't there, the blueberry was coming through. I almost put some lemon peel in there because I know lemon goes really well with lavender as well. But I decided against it at the end.
Do you think you would do that if you were gonna have another?
No, I think I'll keep it the way it is, because the reason I was going to do that was to cut if there was an overabundance of lavender down, I wanted to cut it.
I like it, and I wonder if that too fades with age. If it's like,
I wonder if it does,
because I know like
it's definitely not as bad as I recall when I was doing samples before I bottled.
Right. Yeah, I could see that, because I know like when I will make like a very hoppy beer, it tends to have at the beginning it has this really intense, just kind of like generic hoppiness.
Yeah.
That then fades into, just for the first couple weeks, and then it mellows into usually more into the flavors that I'm looking for. And so I wonder if maybe it was like that, where just like early on, it's like boom, like really in your face, but then some of those compounds degrade and you get a more subtle.
That's why I wanted to age it too. I do have more of this for myself to try later, so I'm gonna see how it goes. I think the mead was actually what I had the most an issue that I had. I would have had more 6-packs to give out to people, but I had just bottled, I think it was actually the porter. I just bottled the porter, and I was upstairs working, and all of a sudden I heard this crash. I like a bunch of things going.
Oh,
and
boy.
I came down here thinking like, oh no, my first thought was, oh, I overcarbonated and they all exploded. And I came down here and I saw the cat running away. I think he jumped down from his little windowsill that he's in a lot of times in the basement, right on top of it, knocked a bunch of them down. So I only had I think I only had like 4 or 5 of those. And that was the issue to not having a lot of 6-packs that I wanted to have.
Cats are jerks, man.
They are jerks. And of course, it's black as black can be. So the whole floor was just black. Thankfully, it's just wooden laminate floor. But like
you've solved that problem.
I did.
Plug to our misadventures episode. Yeah. Okay, so Ryan, real quick. So we never got the description. You owe us a description of the term needle guard. Did you?
Needle guard. No. So needle guard is they are the guards of Kerouac, actually. So there is a fort in Kerouac where the king or royalty lives in Kerouac, and they live in what's called the Bobbin Fort, which I mentioned in the description. And those that protect it and those protect the area and the city as well are called needle guard, and they wear purple outfits for the most part.
And so is that where the lavender blueberry inspiration came from? That's where lavender blueberry came from,
yep.
See, I like that. That's very good. Okay, so this is a fairly unique brew, but if someone was looking to indulge in a mead that was at least along the same lines, I certainly can't really help them because I'm not as much of a mead connoisseur as you, but are you aware of any commercial meads that like incorporate sort of a combination of flower and fruit flavors like this?
Not that I'm aware of. The only real commercial mead that I know of is that what is it? It's I don't think it's the brand, but it's one of the meads they do. It's called Viking's Blood.
Viking Blood, yeah.
Yeah. So they are the only like almost commercial nationwide that I know of that does mead. Most times you're going to have to find a meadery near you.
Bee Nectar? Is Bee Nectar?
Bee Nectar is
that's
regional.
Michigan?
Yeah, regional, maybe just outside Michigan. And
so then
they do a lot of different, like they do some crazy flavors, but they do crazy flavors instead of this like kind of a more narrowed down.
Well, then what I would recommend, at least what works in our area, is find a local, fairly hipstery downtown area. For us, it would be like Ferndale
Royal Oak,
or Royal Oak, and look up meaderies there, and they're popping up. Like there are definitely these little tasting rooms, and they typically have, they'll have more traditional meads, and then they'll have, some like a lot of bonkers, like fruited ones and all sorts of flavors. So if you just think mead sounds cool, go check out one of those places. They're typically like small businesses that rely heavily on you coming to their tasting room, as far as I know. I don't think a lot of them distribute very farly, at least the ones that we have around here.
Yeah.
So go check it out, and maybe you'll find something like this.
And if you're in the area, I would say, we did say Bee Nectar. Schramm's is another one, and I believe that is downtown Royal Oak as well. They do a lot of different flavors, and they're very traditional. Like they do like a ginger mead. It's just the ginger flavor along with the mead that they use, with the honey they use and everything. So like very simple flavors with it, and you just have to find a place like that near you.
Yeah. So support local businesses.
Exactly. I think I'm happy with this.
I think that wraps it up. Overall, I will say great job. This was quite a challenge, and I think overall, even if everyone didn't turn out exactly how you anticipated, you made 6 beers that I finished, and I liked all of them. I would say my favorite, probably, excluding the mead, which is really fantastic and might compete for favorite, but let's stick to beer since this is a beer podcast primarily. I've got to stick with the porter. I love the porter. I'm glad that you kept that one out of all of them.
See, I was going to do the IPA, but it's so similar to the IPA I already make. I didn't want to have 2 similar ones like that. The Raya's Ale might actually come back as well.
Raya's Ale is probably my second favorite. Like a very close second, actually. That was I was shocked by how much it nailed the feeling of an old ale, despite both its ABV and its lack of actual aging. Like, it's a good recipe. I would stick with it.
Yeah, I definitely will I might bring that one back. So I need you to make me some new labels for my beer tap then.
It's going to cost you.
All right. I'll make some more beer for you.
All right. So if you would like to find us online, if you'd like to contribute to this discussion, if you want to share a moment when you were in way over your head, or share any recommendations about the styles that we talked about in this episode, anything like that, you can find us on Twitter at Brewthers-In-Law. You can also find us on our website at brewthers-in-law.com, and that's all one word, and it's spelled the same way as this podcast, which you're subscribed to. So I'm not going to spell it out anymore.
You should know by now. If you're listening,
well, you might not be
now.
subscribed, but you're listening to it. So, but yeah, Ryan, where else can people find you?
So I'm on Twitter. I'm at Rambo Kuhn. That's RAMBOKUHN. If you want to discuss a lot of different things, I am in gaming. I'm in a lot of different things. But if you want to discuss mainly brewing stuff, you want to go to Wise Old Owls Brew. That's where I'm at on Twitter as well. And TikTok. If you want to check out some videos of me brewing. I don't have anything of me brewing this stuff.
Veritable Zoomer, Ryan.
I'm trying to, man. Which is crazy because I'm actually more on the end of like Zennial. Like I'm the ex-millennial, and I'm trying to move in on to these young kids here. But no, I'm on there as well, and like it's fun. It's a great way to post up videos and everything else. Like we're doing our advent calendar at time of recording, so it's fun to see all that kind of stuff and everything. But yeah, if you want to let us know anything, what you think, if you want to tell us beers that are similar to this, or if you're interested in a book, actually, I will plug in my wife. So. You can find her. Oh, you did?
Oh, no, plug the contact info. Yeah. That's smart.
So she does have a website. It is www.mjkuhnbooks.
Kuhn.
Yep, same as mine. kuhnbooks.com. You can find her at Twitter at mjkuhnbooks. She is also on TikTok with the same. She is on Instagram with the same. She's on all the socials. She's pretty much out there, and you can find her book wherever books are sold online. If your local bookstore does not have it, you can request it. They are available for them to purchase as well.
In fact, if you're a bookstore person and your local bookstore doesn't have it, do request it because that would be awesome.
Exactly. So I think with that said, I think we got a good episode. And I'm starting to feel a little bit. So with that said, cheers.
Cheers.